Become a patron at www.patreon.com/Golden Era Bookworm for hard to find books, scans of rare photos, and articles on the golden era of bodybuilding. Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here. Today I'd like to reveal some rare footage of Arnold Schwarzenegger which reveals his favorite protein powder supplement which he used during the golden era to develop his iconic and classic physique, which won him multiple Universe and Olympia titles. Many of us that have read his books know that after arriving in the US in the late 60s, Arnold followed a high protein, high fat diet, heavy in red meat and dozens of eggs. And although he may have posed for hundreds of Weider products and supplements because he was obviously under contract, most of us would assume that he exclusively used Weider supplements to help develop his iconic physique. Recently I've discovered some lost rare footage of Arnold which reveals his choice of protein powder for making protein shakes. In this video, you will learn the brand of protein powder Arnold took, the ingredients of the protein powder, and of course, the recipe as to how he enjoyed his protein shakes. Enjoy! In what is obviously a promotional video, this rare footage reveals Arnold's preferred protein powder. The movie starts off with Arnold. You can see him at his prime, probably the late 60s, or at the latest the early 70s. He's in the mountains, this rocky kind of mountain scenery, most likely on the mountains of California, amongst the woods and stuff there. You can see all those trees. And he's climbing on the top of a mountain. You can see he's kind of showing he's tired, like a lack of energy, right? And guess what happens? He discovers a can of none other than Blair's protein. If you look carefully, you can see it's the original can of Blair's protein. And so he opens it up and, he's got the little scoop there. He takes some, tastes it. Ooh, this is good. And he starts eating. Oh yeah. Now look at that. He's developed strength, right? He gets up. He's feeling really good. Oh yeah. He's developed Herculean strength and he begins to pose. So it's very, very obvious that this video is a promotional video for Rio Blair's protein. And you can see now he's striking one pose after another. All of these iconic poses of Arnold Schwarzenegger, again at his prime. Let's just enjoy some of the wonderful posing of Arnold here. These are just beautiful poses. Beautiful. Fantastic. Now the posing doesn't take too long and I will continue commenting on this video. Most muscular there. Crucifix. Front upper biceps. Oh, here we go. I think he's going to throw us a side. Classic side chest pose from Arnold. Yeah. Boom. Fantastic. Now he's just flexing his bicep. He always used to do that. If you've watched any of Arnold's posing videos from the Olympia or from any other show, back double biceps, he always pumps his bicep. It's a famous thing that Arnold used to do. Now pretty soon we're going to get to the second part of the video. Again, he's doing the single bicep posing. Now I just want to continue on the commenting. Many of you may not be aware, for example, that Arnold has admitted to having preferred Blair's protein over other supplements during the golden era. Here's the next part of the video. Although he was under contract with Weider and often posed for Weider supplements, he has stated in several interviews that not only he but most bodybuilders during the golden era only trusted Rio Blair's protein. Here he continues to enjoy his protein shake, composed of course of Rio Blair's protein. There he is with a model. He's having the shake, and I'm pretty sure he's going to show you the protein can very, very soon. And I think he does that just about now. There it is. So he's really showing it off, and now the camera will pan in. That's right. You can't exactly read it, but that's the original can of Rio Blair's protein. And I can only imagine that this rare footage, this promotional video, really for Rio Blair's protein was never released because Arnold was under contract with Weider. So yeah, this is the rare footage I wanted to show you guys. Now, although I have covered the ingredient list of Blair's original protein, the original Rio Blair's instant protein supplement is shown here, I just want to briefly recap. The protein blend it essentially was just a milk and egg protein. It actually consisted of calcium and sodium caseinate derived from non-fat dry milk, and having a 2-to-1 calcium phosphorus ratio, which Rio Blair believed was very, very important, so you wouldn't get what's called the phosphorus jitters, which you normally, or at least some people say that you get that with consuming only red meat as opposed to having more of a milk and egg diet. This is what was said, at least back then, by Rio Blair. The protein blend also contained lactalbumin, essentially egg white protein, dried whole eggs, iron phosphate, and natural vanilla flavor. As I said, essentially Rio Blair's protein was milk and egg protein. And having discussed this with some of the legends such as John Ballack and others, it also contained lactose, because back in the day, the milk protein could not be the technology didn't exist to actually separate lactose from the milk protein, which is why it had such a high amount of lactose. But nowadays, of course, you can find many protein powders that do not contain the lactose, which makes it very, very easy to digest. Now, a lot of you may be asking, what kind of Blair's protein powder equivalents exist nowadays? I can't say my research has been extensive, but I have started looking at these particular 3 protein powder supplements. From Truly Huge Supplements, run by Paul Becker, I believe, there is the bioengineered protein. Now, I asked for a sample. He kindly sent one to me, and I tried it, of course. The taste, I've actually done a video that I'll link now, is very strong. It's quite a very strong sweet vanilla taste, and I mean, it's quite pleasant. It also has colostrum, but essentially it's just a whey protein, although it's got 4 different kinds of, I believe, of whey isolates. I'd have to show you the ingredients again. It is not like the original Rio Blair's protein. Of course, Rio Blair's protein was hard to digest, I will admit to that, because of the lactose. There are stories of for example, Larry Scott having I don't know how many cups a day of this stuff, and literally his roommates didn't want to live with him because of the flatulence. And of course, nowadays, most protein supplements do not contain lactose, and therefore, stated by Paul Becker, this is a way more advanced formulation. But it is not the original Blair's protein, but you can see that it does honor the label, right? Something that I believe is probably a lot closer has got to be Vince's Gym's, or I should say NSP Nutrition's Vince's Gym Milk and Egg Protein Powder. That's from NSP Nutrition, 92% premium blend of milk and egg protein. And looking at the ingredient list, and I've compared it, it is very, very similar to the Rio Blair's protein, of course, without lactose. That's what makes it so great, and I actually really am enjoying this one. It's obviously got you know, the caseinate, lactalbumin. It's got the essential ingredients that made Rio Blair's protein. It doesn't have the dried whole eggs, but of course, if you mix an egg in it, you're going to get the egg that was originally in Rio Blair's. So I think it's a fantastic blend myself. I really enjoy it. Another great blend has to be Vintage Brawn, and the reason I state that is because after speaking to the marketing manager, they let me know that I was under the impression that it was a whey protein, but it is not. That is a complete misstatement from me. Vintage Brawn actually is a blend of meat, right? And I'll repeat that, of meat protein, milk protein, and egg protein. So very similar in regards to Vince's Gym milk and egg protein. These proteins kind of represent more of a whole food approach because it's not an isolate like whey. And there is the argument that although whey is very, very bioavailable, that because with anything that you start to concentrate down, you lose other nutritional qualities. So of course, it really is up to the person that's taking the protein supplement what they actually want to focus on. Of course, whey protein has been scientifically proven to be a very superior protein to those of the past. But if you want a whole food approach similar to Rio Blair's protein, I would definitely recommend NSP Nutrition's Vince's Gym Milk and Egg Protein, or the Vintage Brawn Blend from Old School Labs. They both have that old school approach of using not necessarily a whey protein, but really whole milk and egg protein. Now, if you were to buy yourself Blair's protein, which you can't do nowadays, or the equivalent, which is most likely something like a milk and egg protein, which I just displayed, the way that Blair's protein was supposed to be taken originally was with something called half and half. Half and half essentially is half cream, half milk, preferably raw, of course, because Rio Blair always preferred raw dairy products. And so you're supposed to mix the Blair's protein with this half and half and stir it with a fork. And essentially you make this a very thick consistency kind of protein pudding almost. And you're supposed to actually eat it slowly. You're not supposed to, down it like a protein shake. You're supposed to eat it slowly. This was the way that you were supposed to have it back in the 60s. You're supposed to eat it like a dessert, and not in a minute or 2 minutes. You're supposed to actually eat it slowly over time. So we're talking more like 15, 20, 25 minutes, even half an hour, to improve the digestion. Basically not to load the stomach too much. You're supposed to have it slowly so that it digests rather more efficiently. Nowadays, of course, and even back then, I'll admit, many of the bodybuilders used to make their own concoctions with Blair's protein. So they would add raw milk, raw eggs, even fruit like pineapple, papaya, and make a shake. But of course, if you want to take Blair's protein as Rio Blair originally intended, you would have to have it with half and half, right? Mixed with a fork and eaten like a protein pudding slowly over time. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Rio Blair's protein and Rio Blair's, I guess, principles of old school bodybuilding nutrition, I would highly recommend you get on my website, www.goldenerabookworm.com, where you're going to find some very original publications on Rio Blair's nutritional principles. For example, you'll find his first publication, Irvin Johnson's Scientific Bodybuilding and Nutrition Course, which covers, of course, his philosophy on bodybuilding, but at the end of the book, you have a very detailed, section on old school bodybuilding done the Rio Blair way. And here is the diets with the supplementation, for example, that Vince Gironda and even Don Howarth used to get in competitive shape. That's the kind of diets they actually used. The other books, Rio Blair and the Secrets of Bodybuilding Nutrition, really goes into great detail as to why Blair's protein was so successful. And finally, Rio Blair Special Nutrition Report actually goes into Jim Park's success as well. He was truly one of the very first experiments, you could say, with supplements, and I mean, he just transformed his physique to win, I believe, the Mr. America title in the early 50s. Of course, you'll also find titles from Vince Gironda, who was a heavy advocate of Blair's nutrition, which then he basically took upon himself and also developed his own nutritional principles based on Blair's protein and based on Blair's old school bodybuilding nutrition principles. You're going to find all this information, all these books, on my website, www.goldenerabookworm.com. So I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video, this rare footage, this rare promotional video that most likely after we probably saw this promotional video for Rio Blair, probably thought, well, Arnold's under contract, he belongs to me, and I'm definitely not going to have him endorse somebody else's products. Even though Arnold and many of the other, I would say most of the other bodybuilders from the late 60s and early 70s not only enjoyed Blair's protein, but stood by it, because there's many photos, for example, of Larry Scott and many other bodybuilders, Don Howarth, for example, posing for Rio Blair. because his protein was so effective, especially back in the day. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't to the Golden Era Bookworm. Leave me a comment, and thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my research, as you can see, I do some very special research, trying to find out all this rare information. Please donate via PayPal, become a patron, visit my website for how to print books and courses on old school bodybuilding, and of course get in touch via email if you wish to collaborate, or if you wish to pass on your bodybuilding relics or literature. Just get in touch via email. Hope you've enjoyed the video. This is the Golden Era Bookworm. Bye for now. To take full advantage of my affiliation with NSP Nutrition and Old School Labs, please visit their respective websites and use codes GUB20 or Bookworm12 to get a discount off their selected products. And for an entertaining look at the history of bodybuilding's supplement industry, I would highly recommend watching Subs the Movie, which I have collaborated in, available at Amazon Prime and Vimeo.